If you're thinking about heading to Zion and are trying to figure out what to know before visiting Zion National Park, then you're in the right place. In this episode, we're going to look at how to visit Zion National Park, or more accurately, how not to visit Zion. It's easy to find Zion National Park tips, but it's not so easy to see common mistakes that people make so that you can avoid making them. Hi, I'm James Ian, and I've written numerous guides about Zion and several itineraries. And in this episode, I'm going to share with you 7 helpful Zion tips and tricks based around common mistakes that people make. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe right now. If you're watching or listening to this somewhere else, follow my podcast to get the episodes as they come out. Be sure to stay to the end. I'll be sharing my number 1 mistake that lots of people make. It may be a strange choice, but I stand by it. Let's get into it.
Welcome to National Parks Collecting with James Ian. He's a national park expert. He is here to help you have the best national parks trips ever. Get tips, discover hidden gems, and learn all you need to know. This is your path to collecting national parks experiences, memories, and maybe even a stamp or two.
So, what are the 7 biggest mistakes that I see people make when they're planning their trip to Zion? Remember to stay to the end for my number 1 tip to avoid the biggest mistake that people make. A common mistake that people make in Zion is not getting permits for Angel's Landing. Angel's Landing is one of the most iconic hikes in the country and the most famous hike in the park. That means that it is very popular. Part of the appeal are the sensational views, and the other part is the scary nature of the last half mile on a narrow section with steep drop-offs hundreds of feet tall, with a chain to hold onto so that you don't fall off and die. You can imagine that having lots of people on a narrow, dangerous trail is less than ideal. So much so that the National Park Service implemented a reservation system to limit the number of people on the trail. A permit is required for the chain section throughout the whole year and at all times of the day. So you'll be very disappointed if you have your heart set on this trail and you don't get a permit in advance. There's a lottery held 4 times a year, plus additional spots are released also via a lottery the day before. I've managed to get a permit the day before lottery at the height of the busy summer season, so it is definitely possible, but of course it's not a guarantee. Your chances are best midweek. When I got mine, it was on a Monday. If you don't get a permit and you still want to do this hike, you can hike most of the trail to Scout's Landing, which is still a really great hike, and I actually really love it. What's another mistake that people make when they're planning a trip to Zion? A mistake that many people make in Zion is failing to prepare for the Narrows. The Narrows is another iconic hike in Zion National Park. The hike is actually through a narrow slot canyon. The Zion Canyon narrows into this narrow slot canyon right at the end, and it has very little room for anything but the Virgin River, which flows through it. So that means that most of the hike is actually in the river. The riverbed is an uneven surface with pebbles and rocks. The river levels vary. The temperatures are cool in summer and really cold in winter. And the canyon is prone to flash flooding, which can kill you. So one of the biggest mistakes that you can make if you intend to do this hike, which you should, it's absolutely amazing, is to not plan and prepare sufficiently for it. The main thing to be aware of is that the narrow closes when the Virgin River flow rate is over 150 cubic feet per second, or CFS, and when the National Weather Service issues a flash flood warning. So you should always check the current water flow and the flash flood warnings before setting out. You can either do this online or check at the visitor center. The other thing is to have the right gear. At a minimum, I recommend closed-toe shoes that are okay to wear in water. You're hiking in a river, remember? And to have a walking stick to help balance you as you cross an uneven surface with flowing water that can throw you off balance. In summer, you'll appreciate the cool water. It's kind of nice, but in fall and spring, it can be cold. So waterproof pants are a good idea. And in winter, the water is freezing cold, so a wetsuit is even better. What I usually do is pick up gear at one of the outfitters in Springdale, which is just outside the national park. There's several of them that offer rental gear. It's very easy to arrange. The other thing to be aware of is that toxic cyanobacteria is often found in the Virgin River, and there are often warnings issued. Usually, as long as you don't have any open wounds and you don't drink the water, you'll be okay. But of course, that is your decision, and you need to feel comfortable with whatever decision you make. What's another mistake that people make when they visit Zion National Park? This is a big one. A really, really common mistake that many people make in Zion is getting a late start. Zion National Park is one of the most popular national parks in the country, and it's not that big, which means that it also gets really crowded. The main section of Zion Canyon is also closed to regular vehicular traffic for most of the year, and a free shuttle is available to take visitors through the park. And that was actually set up to help control the traffic congestion that was a nightmare before they introduced the shuttle system. But the shuttle hasn't eliminated the crowds, of course, it's just helped manage the traffic. So if you get to the visitor center after 8 a.m. in summer, and sometimes even earlier, you'll almost certainly not find an available parking spot. If that happens, additional parking is available in the adjacent town of Springdale, and there is another free shuttle service through the town to the park entrance that connects with the park shuttle, but this will slow you down, of course. Lines to get on the shuttle can also be very long if you leave later in the day. The early bird really does get the worm in Zion, so don't make the mistake of getting there too late and encountering long lines, busy shuttles, and packed trails. One caveat to this, many people do have the same idea, and the lines to get on the first shuttle of the day can be really long, though the shuttles do leave frequently and the lines move pretty quickly in general. Weekends tend to be the busiest, including in the summer. In a recent trip that I took in early August, right in the middle of the busy summer season, I got there around 7:30 on a Monday morning, and I got a parking spot, even though there weren't that many left by then, and there wasn't a single person in line for the shuttle. Later in the day, though, things had really filled up. So there seems to be a sweet spot around 7:30. Don't take this as gospel. Each day can be different, but that's been my experience. Before we look at other mistakes to avoid in Zion National Park, if you're watching this on my @National Parks Collecting YouTube channel and you haven't already, please link and subscribe below. It really helps. What's another mistake that people make when they're deciding where to go and what to do in Zion National Park? A mistake that many people make is only visiting the main Zion Canyon section of the park. Most people only visit Zion Canyon, but there are in fact 4 distinct sections in Zion National Park. Not visiting at least some of the others, I think, is a huge mistake, as you'll miss out on some really incredible places. The 4 main sections are Zion Canyon, the East Messer, which is the eastern rim of Zion Canyon, Kolob Canyons, which has a separate entrance quite far away, and Kolob Terrace, which is a nice drive. It has no ticketed entrance to get there, and also very few people. If you're traveling to or from Bryce Canyon National Park, you will pass through and visit some of East Messer. You'll see the checkerboard Mesa, where the hills look like checkerboards, very cool, and drive through the iconic Mount Carmel Zion Tunnel. But you should also go to Observation Point, in my opinion, the best view in the park. Kolob Canyons has the 4th longest natural arch in the world, and several really great hiking trails that are a whole lot less crowded than those in Zion Canyon. And Kolob Terrace is a scenic drive where, even at the height of summer, you'll often be literally the only car on the road. If you go there, which I recommend, don't miss the panoramic view from Lava Point Lookout. I've been there in August and was the only person at the lookout. That gives a more distant panoramic view of the surrounding areas with the main Zion Canyon in the background. It's really beautiful. We're over halfway through. Next up is mistake number 5. A very common mistake that I see people make is not seeing the view at Observation Point. While the view from Angel's Landing gets most of the attention, and it's a great view, don't get me wrong, it isn't the best view in the park, in my opinion. Observation Point is 2,200 feet above the canyon floor with a 270-degree view over the surrounding area. This includes a view down the entire length of the Zion Canyon, and you can actually see Angel's Landing below you. This is my pick for the number 1 best view in Zion National Park. The thing is that very few people actually go there, and although it's kind of nice having it almost to yourself, in my opinion, that's a big mistake. There used to be a trail up from the main canyon floor, but this was blocked by a rockfall that happened a few years ago, and there is no expected date for it opening up again. However, you can still get there via two different trails. One is the East Mesa Trail. This is a 3.5 mile each way, out and back trail. It doesn't have a huge elevation change, so it's not that hard. The trail itself is not super exciting, but the view at the end is amazing. Getting there is a bit tricky. The trailhead is at the end of a dirt road with a bit of a slope that does turn into a muddy quagmire. After rain or snow melt, many vehicles do get stuck, and it costs about $500 to get towed out. So I don't recommend that if the road is wet. There is a much easier way, though. The nearby Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort runs hiker shuttles for a small fee that I highly recommend. You can also get there via the East Rim Trail. This is a bit more challenging, but also more interesting, in my opinion. The perfect combination, if you're up for it, is to get a shuttle from the Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort to the East Rim Trail's Stave Spring Trailhead, then hike to Observation Point, and then return on the East Mesa Trail, and then you can get picked up from that trailhead by another Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort shuttle back to your vehicle. This loop is sensational, and in my opinion, the absolute best hike in Zion. So far, we've looked at 5 mistakes that people often make in Zion National Park. We have 2 more left. Stay to the end to hear my number 1 mistake. But first up, a really common mistake is not having a detailed and flexible plan. With Zion being so popular and with so many things to do, having a plan is essential. There's a lot that goes into planning a trip to Zion National Park, and it can be really difficult to know exactly what to do and when to do it. Especially if your time is limited, you really should have a detailed but flexible plan of activities and hikes that are timed around peak times and balanced for different activity levels, best times of the day, etc. Just rocking up and expecting it all to fall into place is a big mistake. In fact, the number 1 thing that people ask me about is how to put together an actual itinerary. They worry that they'll miss out on something cool, they'll be somewhere when everyone else is at the same place, and spend most of their time waiting for a parking spot or to get on the shuttle, competing with crowds on the trails. Some of them are traveling with their family and stressed about how to keep everybody happy. So to help with this, I've created super detailed itineraries for Zion. You can just click on the link in the notes below and it will take you to a page that explains everything in more detail. But just very quickly, they have a park overview, plus for each day there's a detailed breakdown of what to do. I've included different options for different activity levels at the same times. So, for example, there might be an option for a long hike and exactly the same time, another option for the same part of the park that involves little or no hiking. There's also driving directions and maps, hiking trail descriptions and maps, tips, timings, warnings of things to watch out and pay attention to. There's also suggestions on how to adapt it for staying in different places, and you can check for regular updates based on current conditions as well. There are different itineraries for 1, 2, and 3 days, and they will help take away the overwhelm and give you all the information you need in one spot so that you don't need to worry about missing out on the highlights of the park or stress about how to put everything together in a way that makes the most sense. Just follow the link in the show notes below. What's the final mistake that you can make when planning a trip to Zion National Park? A mistake, and my top tip, is not visiting Bryce Canyon National Park on the same trip. I know these tips are about Zion, and Zion National Park is awesome, and you'll want to spend as much time there as you can, but Bryce Canyon National Park is less than an hour and a half away. There is no place on the planet like Bryce Canyon, home to the largest concentration of hoodoos, or sandstone pillars, on Earth. It's an otherworldly landscape that truly has to be seen to be believed. I think it's a mistake to go all the way to Zion and not squeeze in a day or two at Bryce Canyon as well. If you want help planning your trip, check the links in the description box below. There's a bunch of planning and booking resources that you can use to plan and book your trip, and keep watching my videos to get even more help so that you can have the best national park vacation ever. And if you want to get notified about the next episode, subscribe and click below.